Hey everybody, this is Stephen Boston with Social Grain. I'm here today with one of my brothers, one of my fraternity brothers, and I'm happy that he's joining me. This is going to be a really good conversation. I know him and I we've literally traveled across the world together, so we know each other very well. He his wife just had a beautiful baby girl,
Hmm.
and quite honestly, the reason I'm talking to him today is because he's got a passion for baking, primarily desserts, things like that. So not necessarily bread in the same sense, but baking. Baking is baking. I mean, he's been baking since forever, probably since before he could walk or run. So I do want to get into that and some of his history and how he came into baking and things like that. But before I give too much away, let me welcome Myke. Thank you for joining me, Myke, this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
man, absolutely. So let's jump into it. I mean, let's just jump right to it. What got you into baking and kind of what kept you interested? That doesn't seem like something that most preteen or teenage boys are really interested in is baking. What got you there?
Yeah, so both my parents worked. So my grandma watched me and she was cooking and baking and back then there wasn't really internet and the cartoons went off at 4 or 5 o'clock. So I need something to do to entertain myself. So I
That's
learned
right.
how to make cakes from her. And then as I got older, I started learning how to make other things. But yeah, it started with the Betty Crocker cakes from her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So what's kept you with it? I mean, you mentioned like you're watching your grandmother and her in the kitchen and doing all that. What's kept you going now with baking all the way 20 however many years later?
Yeah. So actually, when I was probably in like middle school, high school, my grandma got sick and she was like the only baker in the family. And
Mm,
since I had like the official baker, and since I had learned from her, like, all right, well, I need to, carry on this tradition. So, my father like loved like her like chocolate cakes. So like he was kind of just talking about it one day. I was like, all right, well, I can make it just Betty Crocker, whip it up. He loved it. He started reminiscing about his mom and all the things that like all the old times and things like that. So I was like, all right, well, I'll keep making this on his birthday. Started talking to my mom on Thanksgiving. I was helping her cook and stuff because at that time we were cooking for my mom's side and my dad's side, and they had like 6 siblings on one side, 7 siblings on the other with cousins. So, we're trying to do a Thanksgiving meal for like 30, 40 people. So, I was
yeah.
cooking with her. And then eventually I started making this, what's it called? It's a German chocolate cake. And
Okay. Okay.
to
Very.
make
I'm
that,
very familiar.
yeah, but to make the icing, you have to like stand over the stove and just stir it for like 30 minutes. And like my mom was acting like she was too old to do it. So then I just started doing it and making that. So I started making the my mom's side desserts and my dad's side desserts.
Okay. Okay. And I know one thing you've mastered. I know from experience is that banana bread. That stuff was good, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I do what I
I think
can.
you made that a few times when we lived together, and that was fantastic.
Yeah. So that's like one of my mom's favorite dishes. And she would go to like any bakery and like buy a little slice for like $3. I'm like,
Right.
I can make an entire loaf for $2. So I
Exactly.
just started doing that for her, just whipping it
Good,
up, and then
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got good at it.
There you go. That's what you got to
Hmm.
do. So really, you've I guess what got you into it, right, is your grandmother and watching her as you're around her, and what's kept you is the legacy, right? Just making sure that you keep that legacy alive. How
Yeah.
how do you how do you keep that alive? Like especially in a world like today where everybody's so ingrained in like technology, and I mean we're doing it, right? The video like posting on social media, like but how do you get people to step away and like listen, this is what grandma did and what we need to keep alive within the family, through the years. Like how do we do that?
Honestly, that's a really good question. So my cousins, they like to bake, so
Right.
we've been kind of sharing recipes, and everyone knows how to make a certain family dish. And then
Okay.
obviously once my daughter is old enough, she's only 2 weeks right now, but when she's old enough to walk, I'll
There you
start
go.
her on
There you
that.
go. Right when she
Like
starts
listen, just
walking, I
yeah,
love it.
listen, just crack eggs
That's
for
right.
now. Work on that.
There
Do a
you
little bit of
go.
stirring.
Master them
But
early.
yeah, but I think baking, especially for like my parents, it's like it pulls them back to like to like their childhood, and to
Mm,
it just connects them to I guess a better time, or the golden years.
right, right.
So I just think it's important to do that for them. I was doing it for my grandparents. I'm doing it for my parents, and
Mhm.
hopefully, my daughter sees how important it is, and she's going to want to make a chocolate cake for her grandfather, or peach
That's right.
cobbler, or whatever she
Yeah.
wants to make for her family.
Yes, that's a strong way to keep the legacy alive. I like that. I think that's something that that I don't see a whole lot of. I mean, I
Hmm.
see, we're keeping the legacies alive in different ways, but not primarily through baking specifically. I mean, like cooking like cuisines and different foods within the cultures and things like that. But baking, I think, is fun. It's a fun way and it's a meaningful way, right? It's something about
Hmm.
like adjacent to soul food, right? Like
Yeah,
it
exactly.
hits your heart. So um how important, I guess you've kind of gone over this already, right? The importance of baking within the family, right? Keeping that legacy alive. But what about just cuisine in general and food? And is that did your dinners primarily revolve around like the dessert, like what's going to happen at dessert, or is it more of like the cuisine as well, like everything kind of coming together? Or can you talk to me about some of that?
Yeah. So my grandma, like I said, she watched this. So one of the my I guess my favorite dishes, or like the family's favorite dishes, like spaghetti. And I think it's because she had a bunch of sons, and like she never like learned to like shrink down her portions. So whenever she made spaghetti, it's like, all right, we're having this for the next three
That's
days.
right, a whole lot too.
Yeah, because like a family of four versus like eight
Uh-huh.
teenager boys,
Yep.
you're cooking like a giant pot full.
Yep.
So yeah, like spaghetti. And now my dad makes it a lot.
Okay.
Um, I try to make it for my wife whenever she asks for it,
Right,
but
right.
she's actually starting to switch. She likes my chicken Alfredo more. But
Okay. Okay.
pasta's pasta,
That's right, it's all the same,
pasta's
right?
pasta. It's close enough.
Close enough. So
Mhm.
is this the spaghetti? I guess what's special about spaghetti? Is it like baked a certain way, or special
Um,
ingredients, or what?
it's not special. I think it's one of the most like consistent meals
Right.
that we
I
always
got
had.
you.
Like it was something that was made at least once a week, because
Yeah.
spaghetti is boil the pasta and then pour the sauce on, and then if you want to add meat, you can. But it's a pretty quick meal that you can make.
Yeah.
So it's something that was around a lot.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. So I mentioned something earlier about, we traveled across the world. For anybody who doesn't know, Mike and I went to New Zealand together a few years ago. Well, not a few years now. It's been like what, 8 or 9 years or something like that since we
Yeah,
went.
it's been a while.
It was a while. But I mean, that was a blast. And I know that you've been big into traveling the world and seeing different parts of the world and things like that.
Hmm.
How has that now shaped your I guess your art of baking? Like you mentioned, like, you got into it because growing up you saw your grandmother and then keeping the legacy alive.
Hmm.
But seeing these different areas of the world as they like either bake or even just cook, or like what they eat in different parts of the world, has that kind of shaped how you go about some of your either tweaking different recipes or anything like that, or even just
Hmm.
mentally?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I've been to Japan a lot, and their sweets are not even close to as sweet as ours.
Really?
Yeah, they're way more mild. So once I started baking more, so I actually tried to start a baking business, and it started like right before COVID. So that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
shut down immediately. But
All right.
when I was working up to it and I was like baking, I would like bring my dishes to the office, and I work for a Japanese company, so having to
Uh,
like dial down the sweetness so that more people like it, is definitely one of the things that impacted. Then I've also been to South America a few times,
mm,
so I just hasn't really impacted like my food, but like I've tried to make more dishes that are South American,
mm,
or more dishes that are Japanese.
Right.
kind of like
Right.
wherever I go, like whatever is like amazing, I try to like recreate it, which
Yeah.
it's hard to do going to like the big box stores. They don't have like
It's not the
the right
same.
flavors. Yeah.
It's not the
Or the
same.
flavors are no.
Yeah. You'll never get it the same. What's been something you've been sort of successful at recreating back at home?
So probably the my most successful is it's a Japanese dish called chicken katsu curry.
Okay.
And it's a bed of rice, and then like the katsu curry is like fried chicken, and then it's like
Uh,
curry sauce poured on top.
Man, I'm hungry
Yeah.
now. I need to go get something to eat.
Yeah.
Good,
But
good, man.
yeah, like but that's like my favorite thing to eat in Japan. So I can like create
Right.
it
You can make
perfectly.
it.
So
Right, right.
when
Yeah,
I'm
that
there, I
makes
go like
sense.
3 times a week.
Right. Good. Good. So
Mhm.
so you're able to gain some of those experiences, in your travels and then bring them back home and use them in your home. I mean, that's big, especially um, being able to pass down the legacy, but also add in, other cultures, other parts of the world
Mhm.
into some of that food. I think that says a lot. Um, so I know that your expertise is desserts,
Mhm.
right? So like cakes and cookies and things like that. My passion is bread, so very, very not a whole lot different, but just less sweet version
Yeah.
of what you
Yeah.
got. Um,
Add some yeast. That's
that's
like the
right.
difference, right?
There you go. There you go. Just add a few things and we're good to go. Um, Growing up, what or do you recall like any fresh breads like within that whole realm of cuisine that we talked about, right? So like the spaghetti and like the different foods and the desserts and things like that around the table. Um, do you have like any kind of memories of any fresh breads or any ones that
Of
stand out to you that you really like?
So we never really made bread, but there's like a at like Mediterranean places, they actually like make like the I think it's like the naan bread.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so like we always will like actually go into the restaurant because if you're actually there, you can actually
Mhm.
see them like make it in the brick oven
And
and
you can
serve it to you
smell it
fresh.
too, right?
Yeah, and you can smell it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That's
probably
that's
as
the
close as I
best.
got.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's something about living down here that we don't have. Is a lot of Mediterranean restaurants
Hmm.
compared to up in Michigan, the east side of Michigan specifically.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of that down here, but that is something I miss. That's for
Hey
sure.
man, you can make it, right?
That's right. Exactly. I can just make it on my own. I'll try to at least. I don't know if I'll
Hmm.
be say successful. So a lot of like you said, and I think, and the reason I asked you that is because I think that what you said holds true for a lot of I mean non-baking households, right? Like non-baker households or non-bread baking households that we don't typically make bread. Like that
Yeah.
was not something that we did growing up is make bread. I don't remember my grandmother ever making bread, right? I don't remember anybody that I knew at least making bread, at least not
Hmm.
regularly. So and that's something that I want to do with social grain is kind of introduce that to the world is it's very easy. It takes time, right? It takes time. You got to be very, very patient, but it's four simple ingredients and time and
Hmm.
you're good. Like you're there. Same thing with like baking cakes, which I think is a little bit more um mainstream or
Hmm.
relatable or however you want to think about it. But it's not hard, but it's very easy to mess up. So if that makes sense, right? Would you agree with that? Like baking is not necessarily hard, but it's very easy to mess up.
Yeah, so baking is unlike well, I think baking is more of a science than cooking is. I think
Yes.
when you're cooking as you're like doing whatever you are, you can like add salt and pepper or whatever you want to do to like
Right.
tweak it to get it right. But baking, like once it goes into the oven, there's nothing that you can do
You,
about it.
you can't do anything about it. You
So if it's
can't do
flat,
anything about it.
if it's flat in the oven, then like all right, well it's just going to be flat. Nothing I can do
Yeah.
about it.
Yep.
So yeah, like one of the first lessons I learned is like always buy fresh baking soda or baking powder,
Mm.
just because that can. that can like make your, if it's not good, it can make your cookies spread. It doesn't let your cookies rise or cupcakes rise.
So you're
So
saying that if I have like a box of baking soda, baking powder sitting in the cabinet or refrigerator from, a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, like I should not use that to make cookies.
I never do. I always
Really?
throw it out. Well, and the thing is, they're like 99 cents.
Right, right.
So like if I'm on like a if I'm like going hard, like if I'm like the holidays, then
Yeah.
I'll use the same one.
Okay.
But it's like, do I remember when I bought this? No, just toss it out
Right.
and grab another one. So I
Huh.
normally have two or three in my pantry.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because
Mhm.
the reason I say that is because last time I made cookies, and my wife will tell you, they did not turn out good. This is a
Do
few
they
months
like
ago.
spread too much?
I think so. I'm trying to remember. I think they did spread too much actually, or they didn't actually get like rise or get fluffy or
Yeah,
whatever it is. Like they just turned out bad.
yeah.
And now I
It's
think
the
about
baking
it,
soda.
yeah, I was gonna say like the baking soda was one that I had in the refrigerator that was already open,
Hmm.
that we had for I don't even know, maybe a few weeks. Um, but that makes sense though, that you
Hmm.
gotta use fresh ingredients every single time.
Yeah,
That's good to
that's the
know.
best way.
That's good to
And
know.
then one other hint when you're baking cupcakes or cookies
Uh,
is, if you can, I would like make the dough and then like let it sit in the fridge overnight. It's,
Overnight, really.
yeah.
What does that do?
So it lets the flavors like work its way through the dough more, and like it
Mhm.
helps it like hold its shape more too when you're actually baking it,
Okay.
so it doesn't spread out as much.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Man, you got a master baker on the line right now.
Yeah. Hey, it's what I'm here for.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, now like baking is more like, it's like science that I can eat now.
Yes.
It's that's how I see it. So when I'm making cookies, I actually have like a little list of like the different iterations that I'm doing, like
Yep.
tweaking the sugar amount, or like the white sugar to brown sugar ratio and the flour
Yes.
ratio.
Setting up experiments,
Yeah,
hypotheses, and all that stuff.
exactly. And like no matter what happens, you can still eat it. It's just
Yep.
it may be a little too thin or too thick or whatever, but
Right.
it's
It's all
still
edible
attractive to the
though.
cookie.
That's
Yeah,
right. It's all edible. So you probably spend your entire year basically preparing for the holidays then, right?
pretty much. Pretty much. Like these last few years, I make a new dish every holiday. So
Right.
I'll start probably in like July, and I'll try to do a few different iterations to make sure
Wow.
that it's good.
Until you perfect it.
Hmm.
Man, that's intense. But I mean you definitely you've built your name. So it's worth it. It's working, whatever you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I do
Whatever
what
you're
I can.
doing. So I mean the another question I had you kind of answered already. Um, but kind of talking about like what kind of influence baking has had on your family. Um, but even going a little bit deeper into that, do you, and I know you've kind of talked about, some of the memories that come with baking and things like that, but if we can circle back to that, do you have like any specific or fond or anything like that memories, or anything from, your early days in baking, or just something that's related to baking that really stick with you, as far as like every time, like when you bake, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that time that, I really messed up that cake, or that, my dad ate, a cookie and loved it, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you have any
Yeah, yeah.
memories like that?
So I think my favorite memory is I was baking for Thanksgiving, and I probably, like those giant bowls that you kind of use for like popcorn,
Yeah.
they're like the bigger bowls. I
Uh-huh.
pretty much like filled that up with cookies. And this was probably 7 years ago. And like my cousin, he walks in, he's like, "Hey, what's up, cuz?" Like grabs a bowl and like just walks downstairs. And then like all the other cousins like come down 20 minutes later and the bowl's like half gone.
You grab
I'm
the
like,
whole bowl.
yeah, I'm like, bro, you probably ate like four
Right.
dozen cookies right there.
Oh no.
He's like, yeah, man, they were good. They were good though. I'm like, all
Hey,
right.
at least you know they're good though.
Yeah.
Kept
Yeah.
going. Wow. And you said that was like 7 years ago, so you were a grown adult at that point. Like,
Yeah. Like we were both grown adults at that point.
it's not like a child like getting a whole bunch of
No,
cookies. Like, this is a
no,
grown
no.
man.
At that point, all the cousins were at least 20.
Right, right. Oh man. That's good though. That's that like those are the memories that you got to hold on to, right? Because I mean, they may seem
Yeah.
at a time, they seem small, but when you're thinking, I was like, I'm about to put this big old bowl of cookies out. Like, let me make sure old dude doesn't get them.
Yeah. I was like,
Like,
all right, where's he at? Where's he at? All right.
right, right.
I'll wait.
That's
I'll wait till he goes downstairs before I bust him out.
exactly. That's right. That's right. So you seem like, I mean, a lot of your stories and a lot of the examples that you've gone back to, deal with not only a lot of people deal with like their immediate family, like within the house, but a lot of your stories deal with like your cousins and things
Hmm.
like that. Um, what's held your family, your larger family together? I mean, it seems like baking or cooking at least has some kind of role in that
Hmm.
as far as holding everybody together. You mentioned like all your cousins love to bake, like things like that. Would you say that's one of the things that kind of keeps you guys' bond strong compared to like people who are not necessarily close to their cousins, or they got a very close cousin but they're distant or anything like that?
Hmm. Yeah, so I would say it's definitely around food.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's just baking, but
right,
we get together like every holiday, and it's
hmm,
like everyone gets together, like 20 25 people.
right,
So it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's the 4th of July.
yeah,
Um, people's birthdays will get together, and it's
hmm,
always like, oh, so what are you cooking now? Or like, what have you learned? My one cousin, she's an aerospace engineer. She graduated from U of M, and a few years ago, she went back to for like cooking classes and cooking lessons.
oh
And then
wow.
after she did that, I think she then spent, I want to say like 6 weeks in Italy. Like she just like found a random like family with a restaurant, and she was just out there living her best life.
So she completely leave aerospace engineering then, and
No, she still does it. It's
oh,
just
she's
like
still doing
the
it?
company, yeah, the company gave her like that much time off, and she's like,
Wow.
all right, let me just pursue what I love.
Just
Yeah,
let me go spend 6 weeks in Italy. No big deal.
yeah. So and then like my other cousin, he's in Ohio now, but yeah, like we would bake together.
Yeah.
If we made, I think the last thing we made together was like biscuits,
Okay.
like for Christmas 2 years ago. We were
Yeah.
doing like a brunch thing instead of for dinner.
Right.
So,
Right. That's good, man. I think that in talking through it on the surface, it seems like a small thing. You're cooking with your cousins. It is what it is. But as I hear you talk about it and see the memories and the joys light up and things like that, like I can tell that you're big on family, not just from an aspect of family itself, but also like baking to keep you guys together and keeping the legacies alive that are within your family. um so that's strong, that's powerful. I know you mentioned earlier, keeping those legacies going, passing it down to the kids and things like that. Those are definitely ways that I think people can benefit. So I appreciate you sharing all that with us. I know it's a lot of it's very personal, but I appreciate you opening up and sharing that with us, man. That's definitely big.
yeah, yeah, man, no problem.
Absolutely. So, all right. Well, I don't have any more questions. I think that this has been a fantastic conversation. I've learned a lot about you. I've learned a lot about baking that I didn't know before. I know to get fresh baking soda and baking powder now every time I cook.
Yeah, very
So I'll
important.
take that note going forward. But yeah, again, I definitely appreciate the time, Mike. For the folks that are out watching or listening, thank you guys for watching and listening. Um, Otherwise, hopefully, I'll be talking to Mike to try to get some of his recipes and, and see what I can replicate.
I'm gonna give you one or two.
That's right. That's right. I can't make any promises about how to turn out, but we'll see. I at least know to get fresh baking soda,
There
so
you
I
go.
got that down.
That's the main thing.
I got that down. So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate the time, everybody. I appreciate you guys listening. We will talk to everybody later.
Thanks.